Welcome back, dear learners. Dear learners, let us study one more beautiful poem of Alfred Lord Tennyson. This very particular poem of Alfred Lord Tennyson is also known as Tennyson's Swan Song, S-W-A-N, Swan, S-O-N-G, Song. Swan Song means actually the last work of the poetic career of this very particular poet, that is the representative poet of Victorian age. This is Crossing the Bar. This very particular poem was actually written 3 years before the death of Alfred Lord Tennyson. It means it was probably composed or written in the year 1889. Why? Because exactly after 3 years, in the year 1892, at last this poet departed for the abode of the God, that is heaven. In this very particular poem, actually the poet shows his strong faith in the God, in the Almighty, and the poet is absolutely ready for the death. Just as in our own culture, you can say that the Hindus, either Hindus or the Muslims, actually after living their life to the full, they are ready to die, and they make every kind of preparation to die in a very peaceful manner. In the same manner here, the poet, the speaker of the poem, after living his life to the full and after living a satisfied life, he is absolutely satisfied with his own life on this very particular planet, is now ready to die. And he just wants to die in peace. He doesn't want his death to be actually mourned, or he doesn't want his death actually to be cried over. He doesn't want his near and dear to mourn his death. Why? Because he knows where he is going. Actually, he is going to the very abode of God, means he is going to the house of the God, and that is his permanent house. That is his permanent home. Why? Because this is the Christian belief that the life on this very particular planet, that is earth, is temporary. Life after death is permanent. Life after death is the very abode, or the permanent abode of this soul, abode of this spirit. So here, being a Christian, the poet is actually just sharing with us the Christian belief, the belief of the Christianity, that the life on this planet is temporary one, and life after death is actually the permanent one. He here just actually talks about the concept of life, talks about the concept of death, and also talks about the concept of life after death. We can first of all see, since lots of actually symbols are used in this poem, and these symbols are to some extent associated with sea, associated with things just all around the sea. Like he talks about the bar, the sandbar, that very particular, you see this that very particular piece of land, or that very particular area where we can see the just zigzag motion of the sand, and it appears, or it comes into being, all because of the movement of the waves. The waves comes rolling to the beach, and they get back, they recede. And since this movement is all the time, or most of the time, on and on, it is all because of that. There is a small piece of area between the sea and the beach where we can see the sandbars, and here he is using this sandbar as an extended metaphor particularly for the death. Here, beach, we can take it as life, and that sandbar, we can take it as the event of death, and the ocean as the eternity. Means ocean as ocean, that very particular life after death. Just as the ocean is, ocean in itself is permanent, in itself is immortal because of its vastness, because of its depth, because of its limitlessness. Same is the case with life after death. So we need to bear in mind these symbols. The beach, we can take it as life, and that sandbar, we can take it as the event of death, and the ocean as the eternity, that life after death. These things we need to bear in mind before heading straightway into this very particular poem. Why? Because these things are used as, you can say, symbol. So beach, we can take it for life. That sandy bar or that sandbar, we can take it as the event of death, and ocean, that life after death, that is permanent one. So here actually the poet has lived his life to the full. Means he has lived his life, and now it's time for him to experience what? The event of the death. Now it's time for him to cross the bar. Cross the bar, it means to experience the event of the death. And after experiencing the event of the death, he will regain permanency. His life will become permanent. He will gain immortality. So now let's look at this beautiful poem and bear in mind all these things I have actually shared with you to have a better access to this poem. Why? Because on one hand the poem looks very easy, but on the other hand, because of the extended metaphors, symbols and biblical concept and just biblical theme, the poem actually becomes a little bit difficult, particularly for non-Christians. But since I have discussed with you all these important facts or things related to the Christianity, I hope these things will help you understand this poem much better. So now let's look at this beautiful poem that is divided into 4 parts, just like his first elegy, break, 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 divided into 4 parts, 4 lines each, or divided into 4 stanzas, 4 lines each. In the same manner, this very particular poem is also divided into 4 stanzas, 4 lines each. It means quatrain. Let's look at the text. Sunset and evening star. See, the poem begins with certain symbols that are this way or that way associated with the death, associated with that very particular time that somehow signifies death. Like sunset. What does sunset stand for? Sunset stands for the death of the day. An evening star also associated with the beginning of the night or the beginning of that very particular journey the speaker of the poem is just going to embark on. Means that is the death. See this? And one clear call from me. And here one clear call for the speaker of the poem, and this call is none other than the call from the God, that is the Almighty, means now he can hear, he can feel that his life is just going to end. He has lived his life to the full, and he has no reason he has no actually valid reason to be dissatisfied or to feel sorry that he has not lived his life to the full and the time of his going has come. No, he has lived his life to the full. He is an all satisfied man. See, and may there be no mourning of the Baba, just that event of the death, when I when I set out, start to see to the life after that, the permanent life after death. So he says that now since the evening of my life has arrived, or the sun of my life has set, and the night of my life is just going to begin, means I'm just going to wrap my life, I'm just going to wrap my business on this very particular earth. My earthly business is just going to over. I just don't want my near and dear to mourn my death. I want them to accept it. Why? Because I am ready to accept it. Not ready, I have accepted it. Why? Because it is the God who has given us life, and it is the God who take our life. So why to grieve? Why to be sad? Why to be sorry? Why to fear the death? Better to accept the death. Better to welcome the call of the death. Better to welcome the call of the God. Why? Because it is the God who decides everything. It is the God who gives life, and it is the God who plans the each and every action of our own life. So it is the God who decides to wrap our life on this planet. It is the God who gives us a final call. And actually after that we are going to get the permanent life in the very abode of the God. So why to grieve? So why to be sad? Why to cry? Better to accept. Just as we accept our life, in the same manner we should accept our death. So here the Wordsworthian philosophy is also echoing in the poem. Why? Because actually this very particular planet, that is Earth, is not the permanent place of humans. Actually, the very abode of the God after death is the permanent place of the humans. Where do we actually come from? What does actually Wordsworth talk about in his immortality ode, in his ode? That where do we actually come from? From the very heaven, from the very abode of God. And where do we go after that? Our home. This is not a permanent place to live on. We are here just as tenant, just as we people, or certain number of the people, live in the rented houses, rented rooms, and they have to vacate one day. In the same manner, we humans come here on this planet only to make use of this planet as a temporary place, as a rented place, as a rented house, or as a rented room. And just as one has to vacate a rented room or a rented house one day, in the same manner we have to vacate it. We have to go to the very place that is our home, permanent home. See this? So he says, but such a tide, So till here it is clear, right here. So he says the first stanza of the poem just refers about the sunset, refers about the evening star. Evening star stands for Venus. Venus is known as the morning star and also as the evening star. It means here Venus. Venus can be seen in the sky. It means evening has come. It means the evening of the life has come, means the last hour or the last phase of the human life has come. It means he has to go, and now he does not want his death to be mourned or grieved by those he will leave them behind after his own death. And is getting a clear-cut call now. Is just going to experience the bar, means the event of death. And after, why? Because it's just going on that very particular journey that will take him to the very abode of the God. But such a tide as moving seems asleep. So here tide stands for the life, or the tide stands for that movement of the waves. So he says, just as the waves come from within the depth of the ocean and move in the direction of the beach, in the same manner, the human life begins on this planet. And the more we grow, the more we get closer and closer and go in that very particular direction. And when the time of our death comes, what happens? The life becomes almost slow, the life becomes almost silent, just as the waves, when the waves come from within the depth of the ocean, how they rush in towards the beach with a lot of noise and with a lot of energy and with a lot of sound and with a lot of strength. But what happens? At last the waves break and lose their power and strength and stamina. How do they get back into the depth of the ocean they came from? In a very slow and in a very silent manner. Same is the case with the life. How do we grow so strongly? How do we progress in our own life in a very strong, in a very vigorous and in a very powerful manner and make our presence felt? But how we start losing our strength, our stamina, our power and vitality when we get closer and closer and closer to our old age. And that old age at last punctuates a full stop to this eventful just life on this planet. So here he makes a straightway comparison of this very particular life and the movement of the life and the growth of this life that very particular you see this wave that is under current and slowly come into being and move towards its destiny. And after moving and breaking, what happens? How does it retreat back to the place it actually came? So same is the case. Now the wave of the life has achieved its destination. Now it's time for the life or the wave of the life to get back to that place of origin, that real house or that real home that is the abode of the God. And so no noise at all, no movement at all, and the poet is just going, or the speaker of the poem is just going to experience the event of this death. So see this, two for sound and form. So he says, now it seems as if the waves are asleep. It means the waves have become so slow. Means life in the old age becomes so slow that it seems as if there is no sound, there is no agility, there is no movement. When that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. So here he talks about the origin, talks about the undercurrent waves. How do waves come out from the depth of the ocean and go upward and upward and upward, and then take their journey or go on their own journey, just as we come from the heaven. We get here, we get our life here on this planet, and we live our eventful life. And after living our eventful life, we have to go back to our real home, our home. In the same manner, here he talks about this wave, that how the siege actually generate the wave or create the wave from within its depth, and after breaking, how does he get its way back into its depth? In the same manner, life comes from the heaven. Wordsworthian philosophy echoes, and after living its life on this very particular planet to the full, the soul has to get back to its abode, that is the house of the God or the home of the God, that is paradise. See this? Twilight. So see again the third stanza, twilight and evening bell again. Twilight means that very particular period of time or period of day that connects, that comes in between is a day and night, and day and night and night and day. That very particular time after the sunset in the evening, just before the night, is called twilight. That is the transition period in between night and night. Yes, day and night and night and day in the morning. So that period means he has lived his life to the full. It means now it's time for him to go. So twilight here stands for that old age, and just after the old age, the death of this eventful life on the planet. And that evening bell, this pastoral motive here the poet has made use of. What happened to the grazier and the shepherds? Shepherds take their or tend their or lead their animals, their animals actually in the morning with the sunrise. And when when in the olden time, this actually the herders, or you can say the shepherds, when they heard the ringing of the bell, that ringing of the bell actually declare the end of the day. We all may have read that very particular poem, that is Elegy written in Country Churchyard by Thomas Gray. What does it talk about? The toll of the curfew or the ringing bell coming from the church actually declares that the day is over. And when the shepherds and the farmers actually in their own fields at their work, they listen to that very particular ringing of the bell coming out from the church, they get to know that now it's time for them to get back to their home. Why? Because the day is over and the night is just going to begin. Even see the grazers, means the animals. Animals, they get so conditioned to such kind of a happening that they also understand when they hear the ringing of the bell, they also understand that it's time for them to get back to their home. Same is the case here. So here he can experience the twilight, he can hear the ringing of the bell, and after that the dark. And what happens after the evening falls? The twilight comes, the night begins. Means the death takes place. See? And may there be no sadness or farewell when I embark. And again he reiterates that same line in the first stanza, there should be no mourning. He does not his death to be mourned or grieved. Why? Because if we accept life, the life that our Father in the heaven gives us, and embrace it, why not to embrace the death when he gives us? Why to grieve? Why to bemoan and bewail and cry? If the birth is very, very necessary, death is also necessary. If we welcome birth, welcome life on this planet, we should also welcome death. Why? Why? Because this life is, after all, not permanent one. This is not our abode, our home. It is a temporary place for us to live on. A real place and permanent home is afterlife. So why to be sad when we have a time to go? So see here, the third stanza of the poem, and so he says, and may there be no sadness or farewell when I embark, when I start my journey to the next world. See, for though from out are born of time and place. So in this very particular world, in this human world, we have the concept of time, we have the concept of place. But is there any such concept after the death, or life after death, in the very abode of the God? No device used in the very abode of the God to calculate time, to record time, to record event and happening and nothing. So if there is a concept of time, there is a concept of space. This is in the world of the mortals. There is no concept of time, no concept of actually space in the world of the immortals. That is the very abode of the God. See, the flood may bear me far. The flood here stands for the wave. Wave will carry him. Wave will bear him and carry him to the next world, or carry him to the very abode of the God. He says that the flood may bear me far, far away. I hope to see my pilot face to face. And he says that is very much hopeful, is happy. You can say that. The poet is extremely happy. Why? Because ultimately he is going to meet, he is going to see his God, he is going to see his pilot. Why? Because who will navigate his ship? Who will navigate his ship to the next world? The pilot. And the pilot is none other than the God. So here pilot stands for our God, our holy God in the heaven. So he says that when my journey from this earth to the next world will will end or ends, I will have a chance to see my God, see my Master. So why to be sad and why to be grieved? Why? Because I'm going to see my Master. I'm going to see my pilot, my God. So let's celebrate death. Let's do not grieve it. Why to grieve it? We must not grieve it. Let us not grieve it. Let us be not sad, but let us enjoy it. Let us welcome it and accept it, just as we welcome the sunrise. In the same manner we should welcome the sunset. So my dear learner, that's it in this very particular video. I hope you will enjoy this explanation of mine. But now let's look at some figure of speech used in this poem. See this: sunset, star, two words beginning with the S, holding S sound means first line alliteration. Sunset and evening star, symbol of death, symbol of the end of the life. So symbol is used. And one clear call here stands again, symbolical use of the call of the God, call of the Almighty. The symbol again is used here. You see this, and see, and second and third line begins with and. It means anaphora is used also here. You see this. Next, see this, the both of the just words begin with T, means again alliteration. When I put out to the sea, to sea. When I put out to sea means talking about the journey. C also, C stands for eternity. C stands for life after death, that is permanent. So again, C is used as a symbol of permanency or life after death. But such a tide as moving seems asleep. So see, but such as a tide as moving seems asleep. So here tide means waves of the sea are just personified as a living being. So personification is used. Why? Because he used the words asleep. And who is asleep? Actually just a human being or the living being. So here the tide is personified as a living being. So personification is used. Too full for sound and form. So sound and form means onomatopoeia is used. Full and form, two words. So again F sound, C for three words. It means again alliteration and also sound denoting words. So onomatopoeia. When that which drew from out the boundless deep. So boundless deep is again this ocean, again symbolizes what? Symbolizes that permanent life after death. Turns again home, and it is the ocean is actually referred as home, that permanent just abode of the God. So you can say metaphor, extended metaphor. Twilight and evening bell, again twilight and evening bell used as the symbol for symbolizing the end of the life. So again symbol. And after that the dark, that dark, again alliteration. And may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out are, out are both begin with O sound, again alliteration. But here you also see for O sound, though O sound, from O sound, out O sound, RO sound means a repetition of a certain vowel sound. It means assonance is also here. Born of time and place, the flood may bear me far. Just I hope to see my pilot means here again metaphor, because God is straightway a pilot is compared to the God. So again metaphor is used face to face. When I have crossed the bar. Bar, I told you, bar is actually bar, so death is compared to the bar. So again metaphor is used. So thank you my dear learners for watching this video.